got the room, and it's just grown from there. It's class really, like. And then that room was all we had was like a rack in it, the kettlebells, the turf was down, and then over lockdown, with just like between me, Neil, and Holly, who was the girl who was here before, we just like put a load of money into it and just like build it up. Really, it's class now.
So how many years has it been going now then?
So it'll be nearly 5 years. So we moved into here probably. I've been training probably about 4 months, I think, and I'll be 5 years in December. Well, end of November, start of December. So yeah, it's probably been just like 4.5 years. It'll be 5 years soon. So it's good, really, man. Like from where it's come from like a few guys on like little. Like they weren't even mats. They're like like the shit mats you get from B&Q for builders to kneel on.
The 20 mil.
Yeah, like, they were like 20 mil jigsaw mats. Yeah. So there was like 6 or 7 of us on them, and then we used to train. So there was a gym like just down the road from here that Neil used to PT out of. So we started in there, and then for whatever reason, there was a fallout or something between different people, and Neil was just like needed a space and. This place come up, it was cheap, and obviously it was a shithole, so like it needed a lot of work doing to it, but everyone just dug in over a weekend, and it's just developed from there really, and it's just grown to what it is now really, which is quite a significant space really, considering when you park up and there's like a little door in this fucking alleyway and all you can see is windows and you think, what are we coming into here, and you walk upstairs and it's class now.
A lot of gyms are like that.
Yeah, they are.
It's a good setup here though. Nice space.
Yeah, so we've just had the mats redone.
Yep.
So the mats have been about, I can't remember now, probably about, pre-lockdown, so start of the year the mats got redone, so we've got a bit more space. So I think his goal is just keep expanding it until it gets to the point where it's just like, right, we're going to have to go somewhere else now. Like.
So what's the working setup then? How many PTs have you got here? Or
so I'm full time out of here now, like, so I used to work for like a commercial gym, and then sort of just like coaching online and things like that, to sort of just get into this sort of world of things and sort of bite my teeth in there. And then over lockdown was just like made the decision that I was going to move full time here. Many different reasons, financial reasons, more freedom reasons. Like obviously this is like where I train full time, like a big member of the gym, like one of the sort of higher guys in the gym, should you say, and just thought, sorry, I'll just commit to it and just go. And like spoke to all my clients there, like all my general population clients. Just like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move, and lockdown was a blessing really, because a lot of them have sort of. One of my main worries was, I think you get stuck in like habits and routines, and you sort of assume that everyone's sort of associated with one place and they don't want to leave, and then lockdown broke that routine.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to go through a massive transitional period, because I had the ability to be like, right, the gyms are shut, and as soon as the gyms are open, we're in here. Do you know what I mean? So it was perfect really. It couldn't have come at a. Obviously it's been a bit stressful with all this tier bollocks and all that sort of stuff, but in terms of like the transitional period from working in somewhere else to working like completely self-employed, it's been fantastic really. It couldn't have gone any better really, like for now. So we just hoping the government don't go and cock it all up again for us. So
that jump from going from a commercial place to being self-employed is a big one, but like maybe you think about dipping your toe in the water first, but you may as well just fucking dive in.
100%, like 100%. You think it seems safer, doesn't it, to sort of try and, like you said, do a bit here and there. But like I said, it couldn't have been a better time, because all my clients had sort of broke that habit of turning up to one gym, and a lot of them had realised. I think you get caught up in that. I've got a membership here, I need to go to this gym. You get used to the facilities, and when you break that habit of not having to go, a lot of people have come to the realisation, they're like, Christ, I was paying all that money to go to like this big commercial gym, and I don't need to, and like you can invest it, do you know what I mean, in a small place here.
Realisation from a PT's point of view as well is like they're valuing you as a product, not the gym as a facility.
100%.
And when you make that realisation,
100%.
it's a no-brainer then, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've been quite fortunate, like I've been doing this job for a long time, so the clients that I've got now, you sort of, over the years, you whittle them down like the ones that very much value you and value what you do, and you build relationships with those people. You haven't got sort of the fleeting ones that are like just paying for packs, like for example at a gym a commercial gym. So you build relationships with these people, so they're like friends almost, aren't they? Like you develop these relationships, and wherever you do move, like you said, they're there for you. They're not there for the facility. And obviously, like it's helped that this place is is as quality as it is now. Like we've got all the facilities that you need. We're small, and anyone that's worried about like the whole virus situation, we've got like cleaning protocols in place. It's much smaller, so you're not having as much contact. You know what I mean? And it's much easier to control, and you've got a lot more say. Obviously, there's only me, Neil, and Holly. Obviously, Dan, the physio, but he's only part time because obviously he still works for the NHS, but. It's a much easier group, and you can all chat to each other, and you don't have a manager telling you what you have to do, and you've got a lot more creative control over what you want to do for your business. And
get a bit more of a community as well, don't you?
100%, mate, 100%.
Clients of other PT or other coaches that sort of come in at the same time. They tend to get to know each other.
100%. And it's like me and Holly. So me and Holly work together at the commercial gym. So like I've known Holly for years, and she happens to be like with one of my best mates as well. Like they're in a relationship together. So like our relationship is like we're really good friends. So the obviously the dynamic in the gym is we all know each other. There's no like external parties. It's all under this like a la carte roof where. Although we're running separate businesses from the inside of the gym, we're all part of the greater good, if that makes sense. We're all part of the same community. So, it's really good. And obviously all the members in that are dead accepted and sort of stay out of our way and make sure that we're sort of, the quality control is still maintained. Because obviously when you're mixing two facilities, there can be sort of crossovers, but everyone's been dead good in sort of maintaining. Because I'm quite a relaxed person when it comes to work. I like to consider myself quite a professional person and like a certain standard of work. So, if there was any like crossover that was affecting that, then that'd get on my nerves. But it's been fantastic. Everyone's been great, really. So it's I couldn't do it.
I'm only laughing because I've been there myself.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the exact scenario that you mean.
Yeah.
That's some reasons why you end up leaving gyms, isn't it?
100%.
So how long have you been doing it then in the commercial setting, which you're not really naming the name of the place where it was?
So the commercial setting was, I'll tell you, I worked at the David Lloyd Chorley, I've been there for 3 years. So I'd done a little bit of PT before I started there, but was sort of flitting around and not really. I come out of university basically and just didn't know what I wanted to do. So worked for David Lloyd for 3 years, and then obviously I've just moved here. So I've been PTing probably like on and off for like 5 years. Or coaching for 5 years, should I say, and then it's only over the past, obviously started Brotherhood, like just as an online sort of business, probably started taking it seriously anyway. You sort of look at the online thing and you think, oh, that's a good idea, I'll do that. Everyone seems to be making loads of money from this sort of thing, and then you realise that it's not all that it's cracked up to be, and so I started taking it more seriously sort of probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and then, so I've been in here, well, officially since we reopened gyms, but unofficially probably about 6 months now. So it's good.
Yeah. Coming from somewhere like David Lloyd as well, I used to work at the one in Cheadle.
Oh right. Okay.
Probably the same about 2.5, 3 years before making the leap, and it's a big jump. It's a bit of a scary one, isn't
100%.
it? But for me personally, and it sounds like for you as well, it was the right move.
No, 100%. I think you get caught. I'm a bit of a knob, me, so I like to argue with everyone. So I was never really fit the David Lloyd model. Because they like you to fall in line to their ways of doing things, and in certain circumstances it's very good because you do get an element of job security with a big company and things like that. And obviously, as we all know, like being in the fitness industry, it's not the most secure industry. You've obviously got the stress of, especially at the beginning. Once you're a bit more established, it becomes a lot easier, doesn't it? Because you've got referral processes and things like that. But when you're accumulating clients and your clients drop off, and at the start it's quite a hard business to be in. So being at a big corporate industry is a big corporate gym. Is a good place to be because you do get like holiday pay and things like that, and it makes you feel a bit more secure. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle to break the mold at the same time, because the world, although everyone always talks about like, oh, you can make more money on your own and you can do all this different stuff on your own, the security that you have in these gyms is a bit more. It can sort of play tricks on your mind. And then, like you said, it's when you break that mold that you're like, shit, the grass is greener on the other side, do you know what I mean? But it is a great place, like, you learn many great skills, like how to communicate with people, and you have to be on the gym floor interacting with people. It's not, you can't rely on, like I said, referrals and things like that, because you've got to go out and speak to people and meet people and build a client base. So it teaches you good lessons. I don't regret working for a commercial gym. I think sometimes, like, commercial trainers get a lot of stick in the industry. And obviously there are a lot of shit commercial trainers, but it's a good place to like own your craft, if that makes sense, and sort of develop your skills as a PT really, or a coach, or an S&C, whatever it is in the industry. I think it's a great places to start really, and I think a lot of people nowadays, especially because the virus has been this big boom in online trainers, isn't there? And a lot of them have got absolutely fuck all idea how to manage people and talk to people and communicate with people, and how different people need different like ways of speaking to them, essentially, like communication skills, isn't it? And they sort of, like, you see the holy grail of people who've got like 20,000 Instagram followers and think, oh, online coach is the way to go, and it's I think it's doing damage to people because they're not getting the experience that they deserve and the sort of learning that they deserve, but at the same time it's building sort of bad influences on coaches, because there's so many shit coaches that are coming through that just aren't doing any good to people, and it's all about transformation pictures, and there's no depth behind it, do you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the issues that's sort of, again, that's another topic for another time, but, so it's a tough one really, but I'd like to say, like I said, I don't regret working at a commercial gym. It gave me some great experiences, met some good people as well. So it's.
To be honest, I always advise people who are getting into the industry to go and work at somewhere like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it, as you said, allows you to hone your craft and get an idea of what your product is, get how to communicate with people and build up confidence in yourself and your product. It's very hard to make a living coming into a gym like this, or the one that I work or you work at, where the member pool might be a max of 200 people.
Yeah, 100%.
Try making a business out of that is going to be very difficult.
Whereas as well, those 200 people probably already have a coach because they're there for that coach.
100%.
As I'm the same, like I didn't start off in like a commercial setting, but I was in a lifestyle fitness. So self-employed setting. But you'd have to follow their rules, and I was similar where they try and bring something in and I'd question it, and they'd be like, and then after 6 months they pretty much find a way to get me out. But luckily I was lucky to keep my job for as long as I did. I definitely kicked off on a few times, but
there's some good stuff about it though, isn't there? There's that professional element of like the commercial part of it that does get a bit annoying if you're a bit of a free thinker. But there's that brand standards.
100%.
It instills that into you, doesn't it? Like if you go into it without having some sort of employed thing behind you, you're gonna have no professional skill set behind you. So
100%.
Tidiness, something as simple as like grooming.
100%. 100%, mate. Like being on time, things like just like basic things that come with being a decent coach, is like being on time, like not being stuffy. Like tidiness, like cleaning the gym, like
number one that you've missed, admin.
Admin, massive. So it's like basic things that you just, if you were to just go into the big wide world, and you didn't know what you had to do, you have to pick them up it's much harder to pick them up, whereas when you work in a commercial setting, it's like, this is how it's done, these are the forms you need to fill in, clean the gym at this time, etc, do whatever you need to do your pull checks, and you learn that habit and routine, don't you, of sort of, like you said, maintaining a brand product.
And like you said, there's a lot of people in the industry. Social media is great. It's also shit. There's loads of people with a lot of followers that are either bought or just accumulated and a certain image that people are seeing and think, I want that. And a lot of it's cookie cutter. I tell you now, from my experience with online coaching, I can't manage thousands of people if it's not like an AI.
No. Systemised,
So if you're sitting down and writing specific programs for people, I mean, I wouldn't like to do 100 of those.
Horrendous.
So what was your process from going from that then to starting the Brotherhood side of things?
So I was very fortunate that one of the trainers that worked at David Lloyd when I started was an online coach, and he was quite well respected within the sort of natural science-based bodybuilding community. Very intelligent lad, and he was doing it a lot. So I sort of looked at him and saw his model of doing things, and I thought that's sort of something that I want to pursue. I wasn't sure exactly, because I was still quite new into sort of like being a trainer, if that makes sense. I didn't really know if it was, again, still something that I wanted to do in life. And so I looked at him and sort of thought, well, he seems to be like on the ball. He was making good money from it. Like he was getting good results. People, he was very, like I said, he was quite well respected within his sort of industry, and that's what I wanted to do. But obviously I've been grappling, and I sort of toyed with it, because I toyed between the sort of the sort of more general population thing and then moving into the sport specific stuff, because obviously jiu-jitsu, you don't make. I mean, I know I keep talking about this, and it's not everything, but we all make a living.
Oh yeah.
There's no money in jiu-jitsu, is there? No. And everyone's tight as cramp as well. So like the health, the sort of physique side of things is much more lucrative, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's where your eyes always get drawn into, and like, let's be honest, it's pretty easy, isn't it? Just like
bicep.
Is that your program?
That's what I do. But so it's much more lucrative. So I thought, but I told you the idea, and I was like, do you know what? I'm not into this at all. It just didn't grab me enough. I didn't excite me. It didn't give me the sort of the urge that I wanted to have in terms of speaking to a client and getting the results that I wanted from a client. And obviously, I've been doing this for a long time, and I had a degree and all that sort of shit, and played sport all my life. So I was like, do you know what? This is the path I'm going to take. I'm going to sort of look to delve into sport-specific development and strength conditioning for sport-specific work, and I always find that much more interesting, and even the information that you sort of gather around the topic of physical preparation in a sporting environment, I always found those topics much more fascinating. So I was like, yeah, I'll just push it through this. So I started it up, got like you do, get your logos done and all that sort of shit, and you think, oh class, I'll just start an Instagram page and I'll have hundreds of followers, and then I'll get loads of money, and that's how it'll work. And I sort of like was dead inconsistent with it, and we didn't know where I wanted to take the brand. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and was just posting like shite on Instagram, and then eventually it sort of clicked, and I started obviously reading a lot more and learning a lot more, applying myself a lot more to the actual task of developing as a coach, and just started to grow from there. And I originally sort of wanted to work. I mean, I still do work with like all combat sports, and that was the original goal, was to be as open and specified in combat sports as a whole. But as time's developed, it just got more and more specific to grappling. Again, through no direct fault of my own, it was just through obviously my profile, for want of a better word, in the sport. Not that it's a significant profile at all, but like the communities that you're in, obviously the gyms you train at, the people you meet. Like there's no MMA around here, so I think, like I said, like Cam's is like one of the closest MMA gyms. We've got like Preds in Blackburn and stuff like that, but in Chorley it's just jiu-jitsu, so it sort of developed more into a niche market of just grapplers, essentially. Like I said, I still do work with like other combat athletes and trying to push that more, but it just grew and developed into more specific to grappling. And it's where we are now, just trying to keep continuously grow and develop as a coach, really, and learn more and apply myself more into how we can help grapplers get better. And I think one of the things I've realised over the years is when you first start working in like sport-specific environments, is you always want to work with the elite, don't you? Everyone wants that profile reel. Everyone wants to walk out the sick cage side of the UFC. You know what I mean? But that's not realistic, especially in an amateur sport like grappling.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys are full-time employed. They're not full-time grapplers. They are guys who just want to get fitter, get stronger, feel better on the mats, feel better in normal life. Like very much general population, but specified to jiu-jitsu. And that's again like something that I find really enjoyable to do, because you're taking normal guys that got no aspirations in being a world champion, but making them do, or helping them to do like extraordinary things that they didn't think they were capable of. So a lot of it is made up of these like amateur guys that aren't training full time. They're training 4 times a week, and they've got 2 kids, and like they work 60 hours a week. And how is it we can develop them? Do you know that makes sense? And that fascinates me now as much as working with somebody who trains full time is about to fight for the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, both sides are great. There's a certain level of like stuff that you can do with the top level guy that you can't do with an amateur guy. Like all the fancy stuff that you want to try and implement and do a bit of testing with and play around with different protocols that you probably wouldn't use on the more beginner guy, but it's the same level of satisfaction. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't give a shit if someone wins a world title, but that's their job. It's as much satisfaction for me if someone winning the fucking Manchester Open at White Belt. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's the same thing, and it's the goals are relative to the person. That's the important thing, I think, anyway. But yeah, so that's just how it's like adapted and how I've sort of learned and developed the business, really. But so that's where we are today, essentially.
So, go on, mate.
I was going to say from like first-hand experience from like working with you and rolling with the guys and work with you as well. like my conditioning's done this. I feel a lot stronger and healthier.
100%.
It's like,
and I think, again, another topic, but I think a lot of guys make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Oh, 100%.
And it's just about structure and applying the right things at the right time, and knowing when to push someone and knowing when to back someone off, and having the initiative. Because a lot of coaching, I said this on someone else's podcast, I was like, coaches are just making educated guesses. That's all you're doing is you're an educated guessing, and you don't know, like past history, things like that, like what type of person are they? Are they big? Are they strong? Are they small? Are they heavy? Are they light? Do you know what I mean? Like all these little factors that make up, oh, we'll try this. Do you know what I mean? This might work. If you've got pain here, right, we'll do this instead. Do you know what I mean? It's just educated guessing and experience, and it's just knowing. And again, I wouldn't consider myself an expert at all. There are a lot of guys that are like a lot fucking cleverer than me and a lot smarter than I am and a lot more experienced in the industry that could tell you things like at the drop of a hat, whereas I still have to go away and like read about it and be like, yeah, just remind myself that makes sense. I'll go and do that. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about learning how to apply the things at the right time, and a lot of it is you'll know from, like I said, from personal experience, but a lot of the stuff that I do is just managing guys. A lot of the time we spend, the program isn't the most important thing, it's managing how they're looking after themselves and their lifestyle, and how much they're sleeping, what food are they eating, and how much they're training, and how can we manipulate their training on the mats to get the adaptation they want to achieve. It's like, right, so rather than going out balls to the wall every day, we give them specific goals for the session. So some days are going to be hard days, some days are going to be competition days if they're comp guys. Like some days it's just going to be like, right, this is very technical, we don't want you to push yourself too much, we'll use it as a recovery day. Like just managing that sort of stuff on a day-to-day basis is where the most amount of adaptation is going to occur, and making sure that they're actually recovering enough to get better, if that makes sense, and allow them to use the supplementary training, whether it's conditioning, strength, whatever it is, to boost their skill development and improve their ability on the mats.
That's an important point, really, isn't it? Because like that's the reason that you're doing it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get confused, and we've spoken about this before, in thinking that the strength and conditioning, however you want to approach it, is the thing that ends up taking over and the thing that you're supposed to be trying to improve. So you're trying to get better at grappling. So why the hell are you going to go and screw yourself over in the gym and come in 100%. Either too sore to perform or knackered and not be able to get through 100%. 5 rounds?
100%.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because like somebody looking at it from an external point of view doesn't have an understanding about the process of coaching. You can look at like I can't pick any example, just pick 5-3-1 or something like that off the top of my head. Like, right, I'm going to train like that because that's a really popular program, I've heard about it, and we'll just go balls deep on that and then try and do the training at the same time. But you're going to have a big problem because 5-3-1's aim thing. The primary aim of that or any other program is getting strong. Not getting strong for being better at jiu-jitsu.
100%.
And that's a really difficult thing to manage because a lot of the traditional or conventional training methods are just focused around getting better at being stronger, getting fitter, isn't it? Not getting better for doing the sport that you're doing. And there's not really like a fixed training protocol like there are for other sports in grappling, is there? So have you found managing that? Because like you said before, you've got many different people with different jobs, different intentions and training levels, and kind of fit that in for everybody. That's probably the difficult thing, isn't it?
So I mean, you always have basic templates, don't you? Everyone has biases that they sort of lean towards certain methods that they've sort of over the years developed, and you've either read it and you thought, well, that sounds like good, he's sold me on that. Do you know what I mean? I'll go away and try that with different people, and you tweak things, don't you? And that, well, he's got hurt there, so maybe we'll back this off a little bit, and you sort of, like I said, everyone's got their biases, so you always have like pre-conceptual ideas that you like to use, and then you just, I know it sounds really oversimplified, but then you just adapt them to the individual, like what is it they want to do. So like, for example, so I'll use Holly again. So Holly works here, like Holly's like a freak, mate. Like she's so strong for like her age and her like double bodyweight back squat, like 2.5 bodyweight pull off the ground. Like she's, for a girl, she's strong, man. So like, but she was like, so she came to jiu-jitsu from like a powerlifting background. So obviously, from her point of view, strength is all about squat, bench and deadlift. So the first 8 months we spent was me just reassuring her that strength isn't just squat, bench and deadlift, that when we're doing other things, we're still getting stronger, if that makes sense. And it's taken like to this point now that when we've put her back into like more traditional strength regimes, obviously COVID, we can push that sort of stuff because there's no competitions, training's a bit less intense, things like that. That she's gone like, shit, this is work. Do you know what I mean? It takes that sort of that point. Although she's always trusted it and she's done the process, that when you return to the certain stuff that you already have preconceptual ideas about, and you see improvements, that you're like, oh shit, maybe this isn't the only way to go about a goal, if that makes sense. But to adapt it to an individual, so I'll use her as an example again because we've worked together for a long time. So for example, at the minute we're doing more traditional strength work, so it's very much like max effort strength work. But what we will do is we would take the sort of what I've been using, like if you heard the Texas method, do you know the Texas method yet? So we will take like the Texas method as like a basic template, and I like the Texas method because it's intense, but it's like low volume as well. So with guys that are on the mat, if we're doing any traditional strength blocks, the theory will always be, right, we need to minimise as much volume as we can. Yeah. So if we can get away with doing 2 hard sets and then get them out of the gym, then that's fine, because we're still chasing the adaptation, we're still getting the neural load, and we can make sure that they're actually going to recover for training, rather than me coming in and being like, right, you're going to do 6 sets of 3. Do you know what I mean? If I can get them to do 2 sets of 3 in the same movement patterns that they enjoy, they like doing the results, get them the desired stimulus that they want to achieve, which obviously is a massive part of coaching as well. Then that's what we're doing. We'll run with that, and then we'll go back into something else, depending on what sort of block we're looking at, what area we're training. We're looking at all the individual themselves. But again, a lot of the work I always try and follow a few principles is like, keep it as simple as I can for the individual. So obviously, for somebody who's brand new, you don't want to be chucking like single leg work in. The stuff that they're going to walk into the gym and go, shit, what the fuck am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? And like sat for 10 minutes watching a YouTube clip and going, and then they'll ring you and you'll be like, what am I doing here? And you're like, right, do you need to do this? And then they don't get it right anyway. So it's like, keep it simple as possible, keep the volume as minimal. So it's like minimal effective dose. So how can we get in, stimulate something, hit the desired effect that we want to hit, and then back them out again? Yep. They're going to feel like they've worked hard. They're going to get stronger, fit, or whatever it is, and then they're also not going to get as banged up, and they can still train as much as they can. So, the 2 basic things are, like I said, keep things as simple as possibly can for the client, and get the desired effect that we want from that session without doing too much, if that makes sense. So, example, like you talked about powerlifting programs. So a lot of powerlifting programs will get you to do as much as you can and get as much out of a session as you possibly can. So that can typically be the difference. So if we take 2 programs, one is for a jiu-jitsu athlete and one's for a powerlifter, but we're doing the same movements, so let's say we squat, bench and deadlift, the jiu-jitsu program typically I'll always try and lean towards a much less volume. Like I said, our aim's always going to be get the sort of neural adaptation rather than the peripheral adaptation, if that makes sense. So we're not going to do as much accessory work. We're not going to spend, like I said, doing 6 sets of triples. We're going to do 2 to 3 sets of triples, get the load, get the intensity, and then back them. Obviously, this is generalising. It could be very much dependent on the individual, but we want to try and minimise the work they have to do to get the adaptation we want to do. I've gone a long way around about saying
I think a lot of people looking at it from the outside who don't understand a great deal about programming think that there needs to be an overcomplication of it.
Yeah.
And actually what they don't want to hear is the simplicity of the situation and just responsive changes to how they're adapting to the program. Unfortunately, it is as simple as that, but people do tend to overcomplicate it, and that's when they end up getting injured.
100%.
And you certainly don't want to get injured in the gym doing your workout, your supplementary stuff, because you're going to get injured on the mat. Without a question, 100%, whatever sport you're playing, you are going to get injured on the mat.
Oh, 100%. There's no way about it. In contact sports, there is absolutely no way about getting injured. It's just, at some point, if you take this sport seriously enough, whatever sport it is, whether you, like you said, playing rugby, whatever, any contact sport, you are going to get hurt at some point. There's no way. Some people get lucky and pick up less severe injuries for whatever reason. Maybe, like I said, maybe they subconsciously handle certain things better, they handle stress better. But at some point, someone is going to do something in the way that it shouldn't be done, and you'll get hurt. It might be less severe, it might be very severe, but at some point you're going to get hurt. Yeah. And there's just, unfortunately, there's no way around. And again, it's something that people don't talk about. Like, people, again, one of my big bugbears in strength conditioning is strength conditioning coaches fucking love the sound of their own voice. So they love like preaching the certain things that they use. They love talking about these fancy concepts that normal people couldn't give a shit about. So it's like, but it doesn't matter to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, it is great, and it's how do we simplify things that are going to minimise that risk of injury. They don't care about your like workload ratios. They don't give a shit about equations. It's just like, right, this is how many rounds you do in a week. If you do 10 more than this over a period of time, you're probably going to get hurt. Do you know what I mean? Like, they break it down as simply as possible, and try and get those principles. So like, for example, we'll talk about injury, and apply them to an individual who doesn't know anything about preparatory training, and that's how you sort of help to minimise injury. You're going to pick up contact injuries. Like you said, someone doesn't feel your tap and they stretch your foot a bit too long. There's always going to be something that happens. Someone turns funny, you go over your knee. Like basic things. You wake up the next day and your back's gone and you're like, shit, where's that come from? It's just going to happen, and you just have to ride the wave really and try and minimise it as best as possible. Like, we can keep a severe. One of the ways I like to think about it is, if let's say you twist your knee and somebody who's weak has a full ACL tear, somebody who's strong gets a grade 1 tear. That's the way I like to look at it. Is we're minimising severity. We can improve the structure's ability to absorb force and minimise stress around that structure. Then over a longer period of time, we're going to minimise the adverse effects of injury. Obviously, you can't minimise them completely, but if we can reduce the time off the mat that they're going to have, the pain that they're going to have, and the psychological factors that come with injury, as best as possible, that's going to have the greatest carryover in the long run, isn't it? So that's how I like to look at injury prevention, because it doesn't really exist, does it? Let's be honest. No. Like, there's always going to be one knobhead that's going to move too weirdly, but it's So like I said,
I think the way I look at it as well is the stronger you are before you get injured, the quicker the turnaround is as well. Like you're 100% going to be just coming back to the mat quicker and stronger, and your joints are going to be able to withstand the stress of it.
100%.
Like, I remember when I was doing a placement at uni, there was a footballer there, had no, I think it was no PCL, and he was like, "What's on my team? But I'm gonna just keep rehabbing and keep the quads and everything strong and make sure I move right." And he finished the season.
I've got clients like that. I've got no ACLs and stuff like that have just, pre-me meeting them, like they've got just good physiotherapists or whatever it is around them that have just rehab them in the right way, that they can now train to a semi-decently good level without any major injury, major like ligaments in the knees and things like that. So, like you said, the strength helps with the recovery. It helps minimise the adversity of the severity of that injury. And again, it's going to give you something to do when you are hurt as well. Like, it gives you some focus and something to improve upon. Strength training is very easy to program around injuries, isn't it? Like,
how many sets of leg extensions can you realistically do? Leg extensions and bicep curls.
Take a very focused person, very disciplined.
Tight shorts, tight t-shirts, tiny torso.
Stop describing my workout. The other thing about injuries as well, I think, for me, is, especially if you've got to take a long time off the mat, the psychological impact of that. That's massive. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's horrible. So I've had 2 major injuries. One was not from jiu-jitsu. They actually both worked from jiu-jitsu. One just flared up from jiu-jitsu. So I tore my, completely smashed my knee to bits playing rugby, so ACL tear, cartilage tear, and I got a bulge in my lower back. My ACL took me 18 months to recover from, and I was at an age. So if you I don't know if you guys play, when you play rugby league, if you're going to play professional rugby league, chances are you'll know by the time you're about 16, because that's when the major scholarship processes take place. So you get signed to teams that you play scholarship rugby for. So we were at that age, prime. I was semi-decent rugby player. Do you know what I mean? Probably wasn't going to turn pro, but decent enough to probably play for a team for a few years. Smashed my ACL to pieces. So my head fell off. I couldn't watch my mates play. My mates were going on to play in finals at big stadiums, and I couldn't go and watch them play because it just used to screw my head. Eventually, did return to rugby, but my heart weren't in it by that point. But so I was young at that age, so obviously there's a lot of stuff to distract you. You've got school, you start meeting girls, you start going out drinking with your mates and stuff like that. So, people will say you sort of compensate with that sort of stuff, but when you're younger, it helps to deal with the process a lot more, doesn't it? Obviously, when you get much older and you've got work stress and things like that, you do pick up severe injuries. being on the mats can be that distraction, can't it? So if you can't do the thing that distracts you, then that stress starts to accumulate and it starts to have an impact on your life, doesn't it? So it's really tough. And like this year, so I damaged my back at the start of the year, and again, I planned like this whole. I mean, obviously looking back now in hindsight, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because we got the virus. But I planned like a full year of competing. Was like going to be dead active. I was going to like really push myself. And 2 weeks into the like Christmas time, blew my back out, and like my foot was like numb for like 6 weeks and couldn't do anything. So it's like we laugh about doing leg extensions, but I was like fucking going into the gym just doing like core work and bicep curls for like 6 weeks. So it's really tough. Like I've got all the sympathy in the world for people who've got like severe injuries, and it's about, I think you have to reset goals, you have to readjust, and you have to keep in the forefront of your mind what you're doing the things for, if that makes sense. Like and I don't understand. I mean, because I've come from a decent sport background, so in my mind, as soon as you've got pain, you get it sorted. But one of the problems with jiu-jitsu is guys that haven't come from sporting backgrounds, they don't have that association with, if something's broken, you get it fixed. You know what I mean? Like when I did my back at the start of the year, I did everything. I reckon I spent about $1,000. Like I had an MRI done, saw different specialists with different people around the world. I was like, I need to get an answer to this now. Like, how can I get back on them mats as fast as physically possible and have as minimal issues for the rest of my life? And like again, it cost me a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of pain as well, but I'm back now. Do you know what I mean? So and touch wood, I don't have any issues. But there's that factor. It's like rather than sitting and moping about, you've got to be productive with it. You've got to go and say, how can I get this fixed? Who's going to help me get this fixed? And what steps do I need to now put in place so that I know in 6 weeks I'm back on my mats? Do you know what I mean? Like, and you've got to set yourself, you've got to look at it from an objective point of view and subjective, whichever one it is, and set yourself goals for that injury. You can't just sit there moping around and fucking knee hurts, but then you're not doing anything about it. Like, if you want to be back on the mats and training, go and get it fucking fixed. You know what I mean? Like, do your work for it. Like, do your strength work, whatever your physio or coach or whoever you're working with. Do what they tell you. There's no point going paying all that money to see somebody. And like, I've got friends and the back's like, one of my mates' back's a bit bad, and obviously it's like brand new for him, so it's a bit in his head and it's hurting, and I'm just like, you just got to do it. Like, there's no other way around it. You just got to do what someone tells you to do. You've got to get in the gym and you've just got to grind it out, and you've got to understand that you might not be able to train for a few weeks, but you'll be back to normal in no time if you do the work. And I think that's what it is. It's about directing people's attention, isn't it? And giving them something to focus on and work towards, rather than sitting at home eating and drinking and not doing anything about it.
I think it's quite common amongst the scene as well, where it's the like little injuries, they sort of, it's only a niggle, it's fine. It's only a little tweak, it's fine. And then that tweak then becomes a bigger tweak, and then before you know it, your shoulder's blown, or your knee's gone, or you've torn a quad, or
100%. Like, it's weird, innit? Because we're in a weird sport where like pops and things happen all the time, and you're like, your knee pop, and you're like, that's alright, and it's like it shouldn't happen. That, do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be. I know like we said, we're in a contact sport, and you are going to get hurt, but it doesn't mean that you should just be like, alright, that was sound, it's alright. Your knee just does it all the time. It's like, go and find out why it's doing it. It shouldn't be happening. But it's a weird one, really, because it's like, again, similar environment to rugby. Injuries become like battle scars. You know what I mean? They just like, doesn't matter if you're hurt, you just get up and play on. Like, I mean, I remember when I like tore my ACL, and someone left me. I was like, so I did it. I was running a straight line, hit a pothole, and my knee just gave way. And one of the other lads was calling me soft, and I was like, right, let's fucking have it then. Like, just like stood up on one leg, and you're just like, let's go. But in your head, you're just like, sit down, you dickhead. What are you doing? Like, but you've got to like, you have to be a bit soft with injuries. You can't. Battling through stuff doesn't make you any better, because you're just constantly in pain. Like, and no one wants to be that person that ends up taking painkillers for the rest of their life. You want to get on top of it, and it'll give you, even if you can't train as hard as you want to for a while, it'll give you much more life satisfaction, I think, in the long run. I think, anyway. 100%. And it's something we all pay to do as well, which I find is bonkers. Like, you pay to do it. Like, what are you doing to yourself? Like,
it's a fine line to tread with injuries, isn't it? Like, you get the injury, and then
I very much say this is do as I say, not as I do.
Basically, the attitude of most blokes in the gym is to stop being a pussy. Attitude, like, oh, what, you've got a fucking sore elbow, crack on with this sort of thing. You want a man uphill. This and that. But I think one thing from like a training point of view, when you're in it, that 8 weeks that you're not rolling feels like a fucking lifetime.
It's horrible.
100%.
From my experience with injuries where I've been out for that sort of time, stuff that I've enjoyed doing and feel like, one, I'm still getting that interaction with my mates, but two, still keeping my brain active if I can't keep my body active, is get down and help coach. Like help coach the white belts or something, or just watch your mates and give them some instruction. Do anything like that.
No, 100%. See, I'm a bit different. So, like, I mean, from a personal perspective, whenever I've been hurt, I can't be in the environment that I've got hurt in. So, for whatever reason, it messes with my head more if I'm in the environment. At the time, I'm better to sort of take myself away, give myself a target, like I said, whether it's obviously depending on the injury, depending on how long you're going to be off for, but let's say 6 weeks if you've got, I don't know, you pop something small or something like that, and it's like, right, I've got 6 weeks, in them 6 weeks, don't get me wrong, I'm not like I'm never coming in the building, but I couldn't just sit and watch people train, if that makes sense. I'd have to like sort of refocus my brain and be doing everything I can to, when those 6 weeks hit, or whenever your physio gives you the clear, or your coach, whatever, then you're back on the mats and then it's done then, do you know what I mean? It's almost, you almost, but again, that's just probably a bit.
So aside from like, you know, like your physical rehab stuff or going to see a therapist or something like that, what do you do mentally to kind of keep yourself in the game, or do you just switch off completely and focus on work?
A bit of both, actually, you know. So I'll try my best to just switch off if I can. Again, it's just a coping mechanism that I've just used over the years that just helps minimise any sort of stress that comes with the injury. But I just try and switch off. I try and look at it as a chance to be like, just give the rest of your body a break as well. Just give you a chance to chill. Like, you train hard all the time. Just give yourself a chance to recover and relax and enjoy spending some time with your missus and go and see your family and fucking walking the dog. Do you know, like basic stuff that most of us ignore or take for granted. So it's like it's a good chance to. For me personally, I like to just switch off. Like get into work, take some time, enjoy sitting at home in an evening watching some telly rather than being around sweaty men till 9 o'clock in the evening. Like just live. Normal's not the right word, but live a bit more of a normalised life, a civilised life.
I just blow my knee out, like probably a week or two into getting with my missus a couple of years ago. So she got pretty used to
you being
around for that first 8 weeks or whatever.
That's not good.
And then I said, right, I'm fine now, I'm going back to training. She's like, what? It's like, you didn't get back till half that. What's going on here? That's the way it is. But like people who've kind of overlooked, I know we talked about the importance of S&C, but what would you say is the number one most beneficial reason to start doing, like, well, we'll take them separately because they are separately, like strength training and then conditioning separately for people who are doing jiu-jitsu and think, I don't want to do strength training because I don't want to get too bulky, I want to stay in this weight category, whatever. Like, what's the number one reason why you should start doing strength training in your opinion?
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you that. I could tell you numerous reasons, but I don't think I could.
Give us a couple of
them. I mean,
your top three.
Yeah, number one, who doesn't want to be a little bit stronger? Do you know what I mean? Like, as a basic level, no one wants to be weak. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to think no one wants to be weak anyway.
There's no downside to being stronger. No. Tell me one. I can't think of one.
So that's number one, get stronger. Number two is, I think it's a break, personally. I know it's a weird answer, but when you're in I guess it depends on how much the individual is involved in the sport. If you've got someone who's like on the mats 5-6 days a week, it can act as a bit of a break, do you know what I mean? Like, you have times where you're like, Christ, I don't know if I want to do this, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone has bad weeks, so it really can. You're still working on something that you're looking to improve upon. You're still doing something that's going to help you improve on the mats, but mentally it's giving you that break from being on the mats, if that makes sense. So, because I mean, like, it's my job, but don't get me wrong, I'd rather roll 10 rounds than back squat, do you know what I mean? Sometimes when you're having a bad time, it gives you that mental reset, and it allows you to sort of bring the pace down a little bit, get a bit of a sweat on, get a bit of a pump on. and give you a bit of a break while still working something that you're trying to achieve on the mats. And then finally, again, going back to the injuries, just the injury management and making sure your body's capable of handling the training that you're throwing in at it.
100%, I'd agree with all three of those. Yeah. I mean, for me as well, from a strength and conditioning point, like a strength training point of view, it's my job as well. I have a busy day in the gym. I use this as that, but I also use the strength training time as meditation. It's like a bit of a switch off. I know what I'm doing for the session. I can go in and crack on with it, not really get mithered by anybody, just have my hour to do what I want to do then. And, as much as we are talking about it from the development of potential skill for grappling and improving your grappling, I sometimes just detach the two. I do my strength training because I enjoy it, and I like getting stronger, and I like the benefits of that, and then I've got my grappling side of it as well. So they're almost two separate things for me. They've got the benefit of crossing over, of course, but a bit of mental meditation.
No, makes sense. No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think a lot of people use it for that sake, don't they? Just like you said, it just gives you a chance to switch your brain off from. It's a different kind of sort of switching your brain off, isn't it? Because obviously on the mats you're not really thinking about anything, but you're obviously caught up in the moment that you're thinking about the training. Whereas lifting, it's a much more clarity, isn't it? Because you just all it is the load on the bar or whatever you're doing, like if you're going for a run or whatever.
Cathartic,
isn't it? Yeah. And there's something quite nice about the difficulty of it as well. I think there's something quite satisfying because it's only short periods of time. There's something quite satisfying about like straining under a load, if that makes sense, and getting stronger under a load. And I'd say the endorphin rush, whatever you want to fucking call it, post lifting session is, I'd argue, better than the mat session. Again, from just a personal experience, like don't get me wrong, like I fucking love grappling, like. But obviously I've invested most of my life into doing a stupid sport. But when you come off, sometimes you can come off the mats and you just like, you've had an hard session, your neck's hurt and your hands are hurt and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm knackered here. Whereas you come out the gym, if you train well and you've trained good, you come out feeling quite fresh, can't you? And like you said, that sense of feeling, that sense of sort of completing something, a sense of purpose, and like you've got a bit of a pump on, so you're looking a bit bigger and you look at yourself in the car windows like but it's
walking past.
I think one thing as well is like it should, if you training smartly and you've got a decent program, it should be safe. So like you're doing that strenuous load and you pushing yourself, but there's almost no reason to get injured.
There's no risk, is there?
Whereas in here, like it could happen. There's always that risk, and sometimes you're all off. Like you can smell there's an injury in there, can't you? Like somebody's going to get it tonight, but I hope it's not me.
And I think one of the things is people overestimate the amount of work they need to do to get better as well in the gym. Like I mean, from a personal perspective, I only lift twice a week, so it doesn't take us like people. I think when people think about strength and conditioning, they think about being in the gym like, I've got to be in 4 or 5 days a week, like doing chest and shoulders and back and biceps and all that shit, but quite often it's nothing like that at all. It's often it's like an hour, like you said, an hour twice a week. It's not. No one's asking the ends of the world for you. It's just that base level will do so much for your performance, both on and off the gym. From a quality perspective, I mean, we could go into Chris, if you wanted to, we could talk about all the actual health benefits that come with just lifting weights, but from a mat specific basis as well, just doing 2 hours a week could carry over massively. And like I said, I think people get confused with the amount of work that they have to do.
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, isn't it? About not having a clear direction or understanding of it and thinking you've got to follow a bodybuilding protocol or a powerlifting protocol or CrossFit or whatever. Pick your thing. So for anybody who's starting to look to get into it then, of course they can sign up to be a...
Well, I was going to say, it's funny enough, someone asked me this question on Instagram the other day, and they were like, how does somebody start strength conditioning? I was like, I'll tell you what I said to them. I'm like, well, why do you start anything? You just start, don't you? You've got to do something, and treat it like you would treat it the mats. When you start, you first go to rock up to your first jiu-jitsu session. What do you focus on? You work on your fundamentals, don't you? You get your fundamentals down, and you never stop working on those fundamentals. And every now and again, you just throw in something fancy every now and again.
So, in your opinion, then, for strength and conditioning, what would you say is the fundamentals? What should somebody be doing over the course of a week? What's fundamental for you?
Well, squatting. anything. So it doesn't. Again, don't get confused thinking. I mean, load up a bar on your back, some sort of squat movement, some sort of hinge movement, some sort of press, some sort of pull, and some sort of carry. 5 basic movement patterns. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. You could go goblet squat, bench press, fucking RDL, I don't know, lion row, and a farmer's carry. You've got 5 exercises. You've got to have massive carryover. You've got massive sort of motor unit recruitment, for want of a better word. You've got a skill element involved, obviously learning the motor patterns and things like that, and you're going to get stronger from, especially at beginner level. And you don't like, and you can again. But this is where the coaching element comes in, because you can progress and regress them based on the individual. So if somebody's very, very like Bambi on ice under load, then maybe you use a leg press instead of a squat. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be your back squat. There's so many variations that you can use. But this is where, again, we'll go back, this is where coaching comes in. So my actual answer was, the guy was, find somebody you like, find somebody you trust, somebody who's not just going to rip you off, and pay them money. That's what guys like all of us 3 work in the industry. It's what we've spent our entire lives fucking learning, reading, working to do a job, to provide a service for individuals that are looking for that help. And in the grand scheme of things, like, obviously we're not talking about money, but the money that an individual will charge you, in the grand scheme of things, if they do the job and they are worthwhile and they're a good coach, they're not just another Instagram knobhead, then you're going to get value for that money. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's like, I always say, like, you'll see, it's always funny when you go, I don't know if you guys get it, like, whenever you go out for a few drinks with your mate or something, and you'll see someone who you went to school with, and they're like, oh, train me for free, and you're like, well, if you pay me the money that it costs to train me, do you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, that's so much money. I'm just like, but how much money are you going to spend on this night out? Like, and
it's an investment.
Yeah, it's an investment. 100%.
Like, you're investing in yourself, in your health, like mental well-being.
100%.
And I think, like, a point that I don't think we've touched on, but I always find that, say, in the skill development side, when you're learning a back squat or a deadlift and stuff, that transfers well to here when you're learning
100%,
as well.
100%.
Like, it's just preparing.
It's just general motor learning, isn't it? It's the generalist versus the specialist. I mean, again, the more research I think is behind like youth development, but it goes with adults as well. Like, you can get some guys that are natural, that just, for whatever experiences through their life, must have had various different movement patterns, and they come onto the mats and they just move. Everything works well. And then you get other guys and they don't know their arse from their elbow, and everything's shaky, and they're not sure what's happening, and they don't know where to put their legs in. It's because they've had no experience with using their body for what it's meant to be used for. Not that it's meant to be used for jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just moving.
Just general movement in general. Like I said, it's just more movement skill, isn't it? You're just learning new things and giving your body a chance to adapt to new skills. And again, the greater your capacity is. There's an old Louis Simmons quote. It's like, how tall is a pyramid? And the answer is as wide as its base, because the greater your base of capacity, no matter what it is, whether you're talking about education or movement or nutrition, whatever it is, the wider that base that you have and the greater your experience at that base level is, the taller that point is going to be, isn't it? And the greater specificity can be then applied, because your body's able to recognise positions and movements and apply it more generally. It's heuristics, isn't it? It's the art of heuristics, and different people have different ideologies on heuristics, but it's that general principle that can be applied to any specific scenario, isn't it?
Well, let me jump in there, because that's a good point, the point that I want to make as well. And going back to what you said about paying for a coach, like, if you go to pay for a coach, whether it's a strength and conditioning coach or a jiu-jitsu coach or whatever, gymnastics, this or that, whatever, that coach has probably been in the industry for...
Gymnastics isn't a good example at the minute, is it?
So 5 to 10 years in the industry, like, that person has devoted their life to accumulating knowledge and skill, and the amount of money that they're asking for you to transfer that knowledge. Because if you go to 100% of my clients, and I'm sure you guys are the same, I will give them every single bit of knowledge that I've got. The person to accumulate that much knowledge themselves, it's going to take them 10 years. We've all spent a lot of time developing our skill and knowledge in one specific area, and I think it kind of gets overlooked because partially of social media. It's like, I just got to do this. Like, do your burner workout or whatever. And like, if you get a good coach, they're going to give you every single bit of information they know, because they want you to get better. There's a reason why you're coming to them. They're coming to you, sorry.
100%.
And you want to give them as much as they're going to give you. So like the monetary side of things, you can look at it as investment in terms of education, or but the amount of time that it would take you to accumulate that knowledge to apply it yourself, finding a good coach is invaluable.
100%.
And you can't put a monetary value on it.
I always like to say, when I sort of obviously have that initial conversation with clients, and it's like, I want you to talk to me about everything.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about, you might think it's daft, but just, and I've got some clients that are brilliant at it. Like, they'll just message me what they've had for tea, and do you know what I mean? Like, just basic stuff, but you're building a base of information about an individual, and the more information you have on that individual, the easier your job is to do.
Yeah.
So I agree. You should if you're paying a coach, use them to your advantage. Yeah. And if, do you know what? If they ignore you, fuck them off. That's the best way to look at it, because they don't give a shit. They're there for you. They're not in it for the right reasons. Like, we have so I'll tell you, we have like a check-in day. But if there's any issues, like, it's like, talk to me about anything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just like message me if you're having problems with your missus, whatever it is. Just communicate, because you want to build a relationship with that individual. And like I said, the more information you have, the more information you give to a coach, if they are worth the money that they are asking for you, they will give you that information. Do you know what I mean? And they will give you help, and they will give you tips. And if you're having a hard time, hopefully they will help you. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a big believer. So I guess there'll be two sides to this, but some people will believe that the coaching sort of ends in the gym. But I'm a big believer that it's your responsibility as a coach to sort of facilitate the needs of your client, and if that means they're broken up with the missus and they're fucking crying on the phone, that you offer support for that, because at the end of the day, from my point of view, anyways, we're trying to improve their overall lifestyle. It's not just the numbers on the bar. It's how can I make this individual feel better and be more confident and just be happier. Do you know what I mean? Like, basic level of stuff. And if that means somebody texts me that they've had chicken for the tea, not that I asked what they've had for the tea, but do you know what I mean? Like, if someone sends me a fucking picture of the tea, they're like, been to this restaurant, this was class, it's like, yeah, belting, well done, like, crass, like, had a good workout, like, just, like I said, we have a check-in day and you fill the workout sheets in, but if your workout was good, tell me, man. Yeah. Like, fucking let me know, I want to know, do you know what I mean? like, and that's one of the difficult things, and I always emphasise that. I'm honestly just, you might feel like you're pecking my head, but it's what I'm here for. Just talk to me about everything, you know. And
it's like where it translates over to almost being a kind of life coach as well as just a physical coach.
Yeah.
Like, help them through their own issues.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I'm sure you've all had it where like one-to-one sessions just become a therapy session.
Yeah, 100%. You can't shut them up. Yeah. But no, I agree, and again, a lot of people would argue, like, I don't like using the word life coach, because Christ, like, we've all made, no one's like, I wouldn't want anyone to live like my life, but you're there as a support network. Do you know what I mean? And in the modern world, especially with all the talk about mental health and things like that, then I feel a responsibility to an individual to be there for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, to aid them. Like I said, it's Brotherhood health and performance. It's not just Brotherhood performance. If I just wanted to send out workouts, I'd have just been like, well, here's your workout, and I'll fuck off and talk to me again at the end of the week. Like, so it's no. I think as a coach, from a coaching perspective, and I think that's where the level. I think that's where coaching is. I think that's where the deepest points of coaching come from. It's not, oh, should I do 3 sets or 4 sets? It's how can you manage that individual? How can you help that individual improve? Because we know, like, the crossover nowadays between sort of physical capacity and mental capacity is huge, and if you're mental, like, what is the definition? Like, what is the definition of fitness? It's like physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. I can't remember if they fucking taught us in high school, but like that, it's a whole picture, isn't it? It's not just all right, how many lifts can you do on the bar? Like, so it's that, for me anyway, that's a big belief of mine. I think it's about looking at the individual as a whole and not just what they're doing in the gym.
It's like they always say, like, it's the client journey as well. It's not just coming for the session. And, like, I'm a firm believer as well of when the client does leave you, they should have the tools and the sort of knowledge and things to almost like leave you and continue the journey without you. Like, you should be giving them the education and the toolkit to almost just continue what you've been doing with them, but without you there to help them when the client leaves you.
No, I agree.
kind of almost a believer in that. You should be giving them enough information that you can kind of work yourself out of a job.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're training up a whole bunch of mini PTs yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
So, it's a bit of a dichotomy. It's like you're going to work yourself out of a job, you're not going to get any money, but then also you're giving your clients the best tools and resources to progress. Because they might be with you 1 hour a week, or you might touch base 1 hour a week. There's plenty of fucking time to fuck up in between that.
Honestly, one of my biggest fears of a coach is a client leaving, going to speak to another coach and going, oh, that was shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, clients leave all the time, no judgment of that, but like, all I'd ever want from a coach perspective is if a client left for them to go, if they went to another coach, to be like, do you know what, it was fantastic. And that's what you want. If they speak to other people, I want people to be like, do you know what, he was fucking brilliant. Yeah. He supported me through everything I needed to do. We got stronger, we got better, I felt mint. But like I said, one of the biggest fears is, and I like to think I do that. I like to think for the people I've worked with, I provide that experience. But one of my biggest fears is someone going, shit, didn't really do anything for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, so that always keeps me on my toes. It keeps me accountable. Like if you feel you're being a bit lazy, it's like, you need to put your ideas up. It gives you a kick up the arse to get you back on the wagon. And do you know what I mean? Like we all have bad days, don't we? Christ, everyone has bad days, but it's like that little voice in the back of your head. It's like you're accountable to someone here. Like it keeps you going, doesn't it? It keeps you trying to give that person the best experience that they can.
I've never understood as well why coaches feel the need to withhold information from their clients. I've seen that weirdly a couple of times over the years, and it's like they're not going to leave you if they find out everything that you know.
It's not like the internet exists. Like, it's no big secret, is it? Like all you have to do is go into Google, just type it into Google.
But then the other thing as well is that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning about working in a commercial gym. Like I think there is a level of complacency from some trainers as well to kind of just sit at the point where they're at and not continue to develop and develop their own skill set to be able to pass that knowledge on to clients as well. And a good thing about being in a commercial gym is there's more eyes on you. Yeah. And you kind of always get that goldfish bowl syndrome where you're being watched, and that's not the feeling of being watched, but I always think like you should think all eyes are on you when you're coaching. And one way that I always like to look at coaching in terms of a service that I employ out, I don't know whether you guys are the same, is for me, am I happy to be able to receive an end of this coaching? Is this a product that I'd be happy to pay for? And that's one main thing that I would advise people to, as coaches, to be making sure that they're delivering a product that they'd be happy to pay for themselves. But two, like if people haven't had a PT before and don't really know what to expect in terms of a service, like look for a good example. Because there's a lot of shit out there, isn't there?
Oh, 100%.
You can end up with a bad trainer and not know it. And be paying for something that's not worthwhile.
No, 100%. And I think we'll have all had the experience where we've looked back and thought, shit, I could have done that a bit better. Do you know what I mean? But those sort of the moments that make you think, right, I need to get better. Do you know what I mean? They give you the kick, don't they? The sort of thing, I'm not going to let that happen again. Like, we've all had mornings when you're in at 6 a.m, and you're just like, and you just, but then you look back at it and you think, that was dreadful, that can't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, everyone had bad days, and it's those moments and those learning experiences which develop you into a better coach, aren't they? And they fundamentally lead to your coaching style. That's how you make improvements in it.
I'll tell you, it's a pretty simple one for me. I remember when I was working back at David Lloyd and I'd do like 5 sessions in a row. I'd be knackered. I'd basically go into diabetes mode because I haven't eaten, and then I know that I'm delivering a bad session because I'm just not focusing because I'm starving. So like now a simple thing is just 2 or 3 hour blocks, making sure that I'm refeeding in between so my brain's switched on and I'm mentally alert.
No, I agree. And then, like I said, it's like coaching is about learning the individuals and the experience that the individuals want, isn't it? And like for myself, I wouldn't consider myself a very physical coach. I'm not like a massive mover arounder, but I'd like to consider myself quite a vocal coach. So like always talking through sets and stuff like that, and making sure that they're staying on task. But then again, you've got people who are very physical, very touchy. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, my coaching style helps at the minute because everything's socially distanced in it. But like. So that again, those tapping delts, like upper chest, like get this to work. But like those sort of things is how you develop, isn't it? And you develop your style, don't you, and how you do things. And again, that's going to build. I mean, back to the commercial gyms. That's one of the things you learn in the commercial gyms because you own your craft in those environments when you have got masses of people and you've got to do hundreds of inductions throughout a day and you are trying to impress people. And like one of the things I learned quickly on was when you first start, it's very easy to get caught up in this quite fake approach, isn't it? Like everyone's like dead happy and smiling, like, hi, how's your day? Like, and if that's not you, it can't continue, can it? You can't, because someone might be like, oh, he's dead good, and then you turn up to the next session and you're much more calm and you're like, well, hang on, what's changed here? So you have to figure out how to be approachable with yourself, because otherwise you're just selling a lie at the end of the day, aren't you?
You've got to be yourself 100%. You can't put on, there's no fakeness, because if somebody's with you for a couple of years, like you're not wearing a mask all that time.
No.
And it's a funny industry as well, isn't it? Because like I certainly, before I started coaching, had never received PT. I'd never paid for PT. I didn't know what the product was really. And it's a funny industry that you get into. One of my clients has just started training to be a PT themselves. They've had what I'd like to think is a great experience over the past couple of years. They know what a good PT should look like. So they should be able to go and roll out something like that with an understanding of it. And I don't know whether you guys have had PT before you started.
No, I've never, no.
Maybe
Funnily enough, I was like, when you, because I started lifting when I was like 15, which I'm pretty sure most you guys did as well, and you're like, oh, PT's shit, no one's a PT, don't need a PT here, like, I know everything there, I know 4 sets of incline chest press.
Get
like,
on Teenage.
Teenage, like watching like Greg Flip videos and stuff like that, like, but yeah, so it's funny, isn't it, how your perspective, but like you said, that if you've got a client that then thinks, you know what, I fancy a bit of this, if they've had a good enough experience, they know how they should behave. And again, that goes back to that little bit of fear of them going into an environment and going, hang on, this is how things have been doing it. Like, Christ, I need to put my ideas up here. So it's, you want to set that good example, don't you?
So Brotherhood seems to be getting loads of traction at the moment. How many guys have you kind of got on your team?
I mean, sponsored guys. So I haven't taken anyone on sponsored for a long time. So we've got Sam, Shane, Tyrese. I think it's only 3 at the minute. Like sponsored guys. I'm probably going to forget someone and insult someone here because it's off the top of my head. But yeah, I haven't. I changed my way of thinking about it. To be honest with you, like, so a good friend of mine who also does my coaching is a guy called Chris Mear, Birmingham fighter down for Birmingham, but like really good S&C coach. And he made his sponsorships apply, like they'd apply for a job. And I thought it was a brilliant idea because, like, you might offer someone a sponsorship and do you know what I mean? They just don't do it. They're just there for the sponsorship on the thing. And I think there's a lot of shit grapplers getting sponsorships and stuff nowadays. So it's like, so I think I really like that idea that you had to apply for it because again, it shows young fighters that are like, well, all I have to do is fight in it. They need to be accountable for themselves. They've got to take ownership of their career. So I had been thinking about running that again, but I've just been busy, so I've just not had a chance to take anyone else on. Do you know what I mean?
I guess with like a marketing perspective as well, it gives you a list of people who are actually interested. So if they're not successful with the application, so like you're not successful, but my coaching program's still here.
No, 100%. And I really liked his idea behind it because I mean he comes from an MMA background, Chris, so he's very much involved in an MMA, and he's in Birmingham as well, so it's a major city, so there's like gyms all over the place. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was I hadn't actually considered it. Obviously, my naivety when I first started, I thought, oh, just get loads of guys, just start with sponsorships, and that'll get you publicity and your name out. But now, obviously, looking back, obviously, I'm more developed, and you don't need as much publicity because people sort of have a bit more understanding of who you are and what you do. If I eventually want to do it again, I'd like to follow sort of his model of doing it. But they're all doing their good, man. Like Sam's on SSF today, I think. But he's obviously been away with Violet. He trains hard. Shane obviously has been killing it. I was like on Polaris last, whenever not the one before that. And Tyrese is obviously up and coming young killer. So it's like it's good, man. They're doing well. But like I said, I put as much time into those guys. But I probably put less time into the sponsorship guys as I do with the regular guys because they're just as important. Do you know what I mean? Like their journey is just as important as somebody who's trying to be a world champion. You know what I mean? Like, so there's no hierarchy in my world. Like everyone gets treated equally. Like so. Well,
I guess with the sponsor, like the guys in sponsorship as well, they're there for a purpose. They probably need a little less managing because they already have their their goals.
Yeah, you can just sort of you can sort of leave them to their own for a bit. You don't have to sort of be on them as much as like your normal person would. You can, like I said, they're pretty self-motivated, so you can sort of write the stuff and just check in with them and just make sure everything's going all right. But there isn't much, unless they get hurt and things like that, and you have to make adaptations to whatever you set them. But they're a bit less maintenance, a bit lower maintenance. Like, so you obviously with the normal guys who've got other stresses they want in life, they require a bit more feedback and checking up on and keeping motivated and those various factors. So. They're doing really well, mate. Obviously, this year's been a bit of a crap year, hasn't it? Because no one's been able to do very much. But hopefully next year, if things get up and running again, we'll start to see a bit of an emergence, mate. And
so aside from obviously this year being fucking torpedoed by COVID, what are you like personal and business goals for the next 12 months or 5 years?
So, I mean, it's a tough one, you know. So, do you know what? I haven't got a 5-year goal at the minute. It's just been that with the virus and stuff like that, I've sort of my main aim is just to keep going. Do you know what I mean? It's just keep when I went to lockdown, my goal was like, I think a lot of people sort of saw it as a business opportunity, and I was like, do you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the clients that I have got are looked after, and I do my best job with them. And then when we get out of lockdown, I can worry about the other stuff after that. It's like get through lockdown, make sure everyone's looked after and is all right, and then we can adjust from that point of view. So this year, like I said, is just continue with that. Just make sure we get through this year, keep everyone happy, keep everyone healthy, and then adjust based on the virus. To me, I think you put loads of plans together, like you have loads of ideas, but as we've all learned this year, we don't know what's going to get thrown at us. So I don't want to do too much, like you don't want to invest too much in marketing for them to then go, well, you're shutting all your gyms now, so you can't go to the gym. So it's just like, for now, it's just like keep the guys that we've got happy. Obviously, I'm still intaking clients, but it's not as much of a push. It's more if guys come and inquire to me and be like, I've got your recommendation or referral, and just keep building it that way for now. And then as things progress, then next year we'll open the doors again, and as comps start running, we can really push the boat out a bit more. But I've been fortunate that I think one of the things, sort of, again, like myself and other people in the sort of network that I speak to, speak about marketing and stuff like that in the sort of jiu-jitsu community. And I think one of the things I learned early on is a lot of your business, for want of a better word, clientele will come from people who you've met or referrals of people you've met. So one of my big things is, obviously this year's been a bit crap, but I will always try and go to different gyms and meet new people, and try and just get as involved in the community as I possibly can. And I found that that's been a really effective sort of marketing tool. Obviously I'm going to train and train with different people and get good rounds in, but people I think in the jiu-jitsu community are very trusting of their own. Like how many times you see it on the underground when someone comes up with this new thing and everyone's just like, who the fuck's this? It's like, so you want to be a name that people know. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather someone be like, oh, there's Andy Hardwick, oh, he's a good bloke, him, and then they'd be like, does he run that Brotherhood? And they're like, yeah. So rather than me being like, I'm Andy from Brotherhood on Instagram, and everyone's just like, who the fuck's this knobhead now? Like, so I'd rather people meet me first and get to know me as a person, and then figure out what I do as a job. And I'm like, fucking hell, why didn't you say you work strength conditioning? I was looking for that. Like, that's what I'd rather my initial interaction with people be, and do things a lot more of an like the same way you would in a commercial gym. You go and introduce yourself. I'm Andy. Like, how's your day been? What do you do for a job? Things like that. Do you know what I mean? And then eventually they'll be like, oh, Andy's a good lad. I'll go speak to Andy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather that be my interaction with an individual rather than a big flashy marketing scheme.
It's a genuine investment.
100%.
Like taking just an interest in somebody, isn't it? Like, you know, you'll see somebody in the gym or on the mats or whatever, and you're like, you know, I think I can help that person, but you're going to wait for them to come and make that interaction. It's like when you go to buy a car and the guy's on the street, so off-putting,
no, and it's, I think them genuine interactions matter a lot more to people.
They're less often now, like, especially with the rise of social media and everyone's sort of communicating through a phone. Like, actual talking to somebody and just getting a connection, it's very rare.
And I think as well is, like, I find it a bit off-putting for being in the job that I'm in, and I'm sure it sounds like you're saying the same. Like, I'm not always just trying to sell you something. I might just want to have a chat with you.
Like, I'll have it's funny, I going along these lines with clients that I've like previously worked with. I'll just every now and again I'll just text and make sure that they're all doing okay. I'll text them and the replies will be like, I can't afford PT. I'm like, I couldn't give a shit about saying you PT. I just want to see if you're alright. Do you know what I mean? I just genuinely just want to know if you're alright. And it's funny, innit? Like everyone always thinks you're selling you something. I'm just like, no, I'm just generally
see how you're doing, mate.
Just generally want to see how you're doing.
What about you? So obviously, again, like COVID torpedo and all this, but training goals. Do you want to? Is like coaching jit something you want to get more into, or are you focused on personal development?
No, so mate, I teach a little bit. I teach like twice a week when the gym's open. I really enjoy teaching. But I at the minute, I'm not ready to be that full-time coach, if that makes sense. I'm not in the position where I want to open a gym full-time. I'm very much focused on like Brotherhood, like building Brotherhood and developing as a coach, really, like still things that I want to do through coaching and still a lot to learn and a lot of development to come from that. So, coaching and then just compete, man, just get back competing. And this year I wanted to actually, so I hadn't really put a gi on at all in 2019. So this year I was like, I want to put a gi back on and try and get doing some of the more bigger gi comps, I'd say. But that's obviously not happened. So get back competing, man. Just try and do as much as I can. Try and prove some stuff, just keep going. Hopefully keep winning, and from that perspective, just keep fighting and trying to do well from there. And then, like I said, I'm quite simple. I'm not too flashy. I just come to the gym, train my clients, train on the mats, and see me missus, walk my dog, and play a bit of Call of Duty and go home.
I think people have got a perception about PT that it's some sort of glamorous lifestyle. There's a lot of sleeping and eating.
Don't you like just live in the gym, man? Don't you bench and squats like?
No, I drive my convertible Ferrari back.
So it's just like keep plodding along, mate.
What are you training in the gym at the moment? What's your focus phase?
So the minute I'm still building off the back of the back injury. So my main things are time staff again. So trap bar, I'm a very low volume again. So I'm on like 3 sets of 3 at the minute. Like Chris does all my programming for most things, a bit of like accessory work, but like trap bar, hand supported split squats, and bench really is like the main things. Nothing, pull ups and chin ups as well, but there's nothing really fancy in there. It's like I think it's like 4 main exercises, and then a little bit of like rehab, like network and basic core work and stuff like that. But it's like I say, it's what over the years I've found, and between me and Chris, like looking to go about a year now, has been the most successful. Do you know what I mean? Like just getting stronger by the week, really. So obviously I'm just getting back to lifting semi-decent loads on the trap bar. Like start of the year, could barely load like body weight onto the bar now. So we're just about it. Just this week, I'll probably weight like double body weight again. So just building that back up, really. And
that's an interesting point. It's like you say, you've had that relationship with your coach for a long time, and I think that's probably one of the most important things that we've not said today. Is like people need to learn what the body feels like and figure out what works best, and building that relationship with your coach or by yourself. Like getting a better understanding of your body is the most important thing you can do. Is getting into
100%.
Because you're gonna have your little niggles, you're gonna have exercise selection that works better for you that doesn't work well for somebody else. So it's just figuring out those things.
100%, and it's another pair. I mean, from my perspective, I wanted to do it because it was another pair of eyes. So obviously, I know my job, but at the same time, I have those biases, and there's certain things that I don't know or things that Chris will do differently. So with my back, for example, Chris is good friends with Rosie Sexton, so obviously their like relationship paved off really well because he was like, you need to try this stuff, there's certain stuff, or recommended me to certain physiotherapists or experts or people. So that relationship, not just from a coaching perspective, but it developed that understanding, and he knows ways that they work, so he's going to have a greater understanding of things that I'm going to be doing, if that makes sense. So so you build a relationship, and like I said, you feed back to the coach, you know what I mean? So if I'm doing, like typically for myself, if I've got like high intensity on the mats, like sort of more hypertrophic style work, just doesn't sit right. I get like my hips start to hurt, my back starts to flare up, I'm just knackered all the time. So it's like you just learn that stuff, you know that you don't tolerate it for very long periods of time. Certain exercises you don't tolerate, like even now, so what we midway through October, so we're nearly 10 months post back injury, and I still don't tolerate like excessive hinging. Do you know what I mean? So so we'll program around that. So I never deadlift off the floor. Everything's off blocks. I mean, the small blocks, but it's like I never completely pull off the floor because my back doesn't tolerate this, that. And it's just finding little tweaks and stuff like that. And it's realising that you're not competing in strength sports, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's about loading and getting better in the positions that you can get into. That makes sense. It doesn't matter if your arse touches your heels when you're on a squat. Obviously, we want to hit decent depth, so we're not half squatting, but the finicky details aren't as important as long as we've got control and quality through the movement, and we're getting better in the things that we want to get better at. If that makes sense. But yeah, so I never back squat. Everything's like single leg work. So at the minute it's just like heavy hand supported split squats and Bulgarians, but so it's just about, like you said, you just exercise selection gets narrower and narrower, and then your efficiency in those movements improves. Yeah. And like we said, we're not strength athletes, so it doesn't really matter what movements you are doing. It's the whole point is the movement is the facilitation of improving a quality that's going to work on the mats. If that makes sense, improve.
No, absolutely.
Stuff on the mats.
So if anybody wanted to sort of reach out and sort of start working with you, what's the best place to sort of find you?
Well, so Instagram really. So my Instagram's just Brotherhood _health_performance, I think.
We'll put it in the description as well.
So Instagram's my most. I'm not very good at Facebook Messenger. Instagram is probably the best place to get in contact with me. Yeah. Again, we've got the website as well, which obviously I don't use as much. So that's one thing that's a goal. I need to get better at using a website. It's just there for sort of, I don't even know what it's there for. It just serves a purpose. But
admin goal.
Admin goal. But so Instagram's the best one. I do use Facebook as well, but I'm just a bit slower on it. Brotherhood Health Performance, Andrew Hardwick. It always sounds a bit weird when you say your full name, doesn't it? So that it's just on there, Instagram really. Or come to the gym, find me at the gym. I'm always knocking around somewhere, comps, there's none at the minute, is there? So that doesn't matter, but come train. Although we're not allowed to train, are we? Don't come train. Just find me on Instagram.
Think about training.
Just think about training.
It's like a very Boris style.
I'm learning.
Basically just answer dyslexic questions.
So Instagram, just give me a shout on Instagram.
That's fine, thank you.
Thanks for having me, boys. No, pleasure. Speak to you.